Hello and welcome. My name is J.P. DiMaggio, and I'll be your moderator for tonight's school board candidate forum. I'd like to start with a few introductions. Please stand when I mention you. First of all, Superintendent of Schools, Scott Graydon. School Board President, Lisa Slauson. Somewhere here. Any other sitting school board members? Please stand. Do we have any school administrators? I guess not. Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you, and a personal thank you to everyone for attending tonight. We are here tonight to learn about the three candidates who are running for the two open school board positions. The election is exactly 2 weeks from today, Tuesday, May 5th. The three candidates are, in alphabetical order, Amy Cattell, Craig Hepp, I think we can see it, and Barry Lipsy. Before we get started, I'll talk a second about the forum for tonight. First of all, it is a forum and not a debate. That is, the candidates should speak to the audience and respond directly to the question, not to anything else that another candidate has said. Questions will come from three sources. First, I already have a series of questions on index cards that came from Saline High juniors and seniors, principally members of the Girl Scouts who are going to be helping us tonight. These questions were generated at a meeting chaired by Superintendent Graydon and School Board President Slauson at the high school last week. Second, I will be reading two questions from Sue Collins of the Saline Reporter, who could not be here tonight. And then lastly, questions have already started coming in from audience members. And if you're a latecomer, there are index cards around, and the Girl Scouts can hand out some more, and pens. What I would ask you to do is make your questions non-personal in nature and general enough to apply to all three candidates. For example, a specific question that we've already had that would relate to the incumbent, the other two would not be able to answer, having not been on the board. So we would like to have you make it be generic enough so that all three could answer them. When you're done with your questions, please just lift them up and show one of the Girl Scouts, Sarah, or whomever else is picking them up. They will collect them and bring them to me. I'll kind of be the filter and be the person who reads those questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. Aaron, who has a stopwatch, will tell us when there are 30 seconds left in that time and when time is up. Two Girl Scouts, Megan and Dana, will also be reading questions. Between 8 and 8:15, we'll cut off the questions and then give each candidate 2 minutes to summarize. And they will basically be throwing it, once they answer their question, they'll be throwing it to the next person. So I'm not going to bother saying, okay, now it's Barry's turn or Craig's turn or Amy's turn. Okay, I've done enough. Are you guys ready to answer some questions? Yes. Okay. I'll start by asking you to introduce yourself to the audience. When you do, please include your occupation, how long you've lived in Saline, and your association with the Saline School District, including who in your family currently is or was a Saline student. Let's just start in alphabetical order. Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy Cattell. I've lived here for 20 years. I have a daughter that's a junior at Saline High. I have a son that graduated in 2007. My husband, I've been married for 24 years. My occupation. I currently do freelance interior design work. In the past, for about 20 plus years, I was in the travel industry where I managed my own business. I did outside sales and consulted did large groups, small, consulted people on international and domestic travel. My main job, though, is I'm a mom, and that's my full-time, more than full-time job that I've done for almost 20 years. What else was in the question?
I think you hit it. Okay.
My name's Craig F. I'm the fire chief. I've been married for going on 33 years. My wife Patty. We have 3 daughters, Nikki, Jessica, and Ashley. They've also graduated from Saline schools, went on to college. We spread our money through the state. They've attended Michigan, Michigan State, and Western Michigan. So we're taking care of Michigan. Let's see, where do we want to go here? Oh, no, I lost it. Go ahead. Did I hit him all? I think I hit him. I'm sorry. Nervous.
I'm Barry Lipsey. I currently am self-employed. I have a business here in Saline and also help my husband. He is self-employed also. For 18 years I was in commercial banking prior to starting my business last year. I have lived in Saline for 39 years now and married with 3 kids. I have a stepdaughter who is 20, graduated from Saline in 2007 with Amy's son. I have a daughter, Jessica, who is 11 in 6th grade at Heritage, and a daughter, Grace, who is 9 in 3rd grade at Harvest. And that's pretty much my association with the district, as well as being a graduate myself of Saline.
Thank you. And now for the first question.
I'm Megan. First question is, what are the 3 most important things in your life?
Well, that seems easy enough. My family, my job, and my community.
Family obviously is number 1. The other important things in my life probably are community and philanthropic behavior, I guess would be, meaning giving back to your community, to your area, to whatever pulls at your heartstrings. Sorry, we were supposed to.
I would have to say, I hope this is politically correct. My family is number 1, my faith, and my community. And I, again, it's very passionate about serving my community and my faith and my family.
They kind of demand it, don't they?
Okay.
Hi, I'm Dana. What kinds of volunteer experience do you have?
Oh, it's mine. Okay, thank you. Volunteer experience. Hope this doesn't sound like I switched jobs a lot, but I have been involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Washtenaw County. If any of you remember a large volunteer organization called Help Source, it used to be the largest nonprofit in Washtenaw County. It has since gone under a few years back, but I was on the board of that, and I was not on the board when it went under. So. I've been involved with the YMCA. I've been deaconess of my church, treasurer. I've worked with well, I'll end it with, currently I'm working with March of Dimes. They hold 2 events. 2 of their major fundraisers are the Walk for Babies and their Signature Chef event, which is in the fall, and I'm on the committee for putting on that fundraiser. for Milage, so that's currently what I'm working with. Thanks.
I'm currently a volunteer of Arbor Hospice. I also am a member of the SCRUD Committee, the Saline Coalition to Reduce Underage Drinking. What else? One of the things I did that I really enjoyed from 2000 to 2002, I helped facilitate peace polls being implemented in all the schools, where I worked very closely with students, administrators, and the community, and they all had a different take on it, but the basic message was conflict resolution and celebrating diversity. And I think that's all I'm involved in right now.
I think probably the greatest thing that I do, or at least I get the greatest feeling for, is I was part of starting the Toys for Tots program in Saline to help Saline Social Services and just the kids in Saline. And every year, as the economy gets worse, there's more and more kids to help. So it's really a great feeling. And I think all the people that are part of that get the same thing. And I'm also involved with other community service groups. I'm with the Rotary. I'm also part of SCRUD. I think that's an important program. I'm sure if anybody that's had kids in school, they'd be part of the Booster Club and those organizations. So.
We'll go back to Amy to start. I'm going to take sort of two cards and roll them into a two-part question. Why do you want to be a board member? And what is the one thing or reason that you believe qualifies you to be a board member?
I would like to be a board member because I have had my kids go through the school system. I also volunteered, was an active volunteer in all of their rooms in their buildings, and I have a very high regard for our school system, for the excellence that we maintain. I have a lot of respect for our superintendent that we currently have and our board that we currently have, and I would be honored to be a part of that. It's a good time in my life to undertake this. My kids are getting older and I can manage it and fulfill the commitment. I forgot the second half of the question.
Which is, why do you think you're qualified?
Why do I think I'm qualified? I think that I have a very unique combination of passion for our community and compassion for our community and passion for education. And I also am a good listener, a good problem solver, and usually pretty rational. So I think I can use my business background along with what there is to learn, and it's a great combination to help serve our community. The biggest reason is I want to give back. It's a great way to serve our community and our schools. I'm sorry.
30 seconds.
You want 30 more seconds?
Yeah. But thank you.
Well, I asked myself the same question. This was one of the most difficult decisions I've ever made. Because why would somebody that's fire chief in the fire service, something that everybody likes, everybody adores, everybody says nice things, they bring you cookies, cakes. I just don't see any reason why. But then, so I had to think hard about it, and it's actually a natural connection because of the fire chief job. I'm in school buildings. I'm talking to students, to the staff, to the custodians, go for lunch, work with the PTAs at their different events. I referee community ed basketball. It allows me to be in touch with the students, the high school students. I enjoy that. So those kind of things kind of bring it into balance. And then the fact that it's the same Saline community that got me where I am today, and it got my whole family all 5 of us went through Saline schools. So now I have the time and opportunity to help back, give back, so that's what I like to do.
I will say, I'll kind of start back to when I became a board member and say, it really, a big part of it was I was asked, and, you know, the second part of it was you kind of start attending meetings and seeing what is it about and what goes on. And I guess I can't say that the passion was there beforehand to be on the school board, but it grew from seeing what happens and what Saline area schools is all about. When I went to school here, I swore up and down I'd never live in Saline. There was no way I was getting out of here. And you know, things change as you go through life, and you look back and you start looking for a house, and you say, wow, the property values are really good in Saline. And then you start thinking about having kids, and you're like, well, where would I want my kids to go to school? And Saline is a great place for your kids to go to school. I mean, how many school districts around here? You know, we have great school districts around here, but the parent involvement in this district is astronomical compared to a lot of districts. And it's just good people here. And so you say, yeah, we've got a good school district, I want my kids to get an education there. And you become part of that community, it kind of sucks you back in. And so that is kind of, you know, what drew me in. And then what qualifies me, thank you. It's the first one to go to 2 minutes right here. What qualifies me, or kind of what I felt I was bringing to the board being on it, was my background in finance, which I will admit I don't think I'm overstepping too far to say I might be the most conservative person on the board. I just, you know, I think I bring a different piece, having the finance background, or not different, but, you know, something that helps it be diverse. I'm done.
With the time demands of this position, do you have any concerns making this commitment?
You know, I've tried to weigh that out too. That was another thing, you know, being the fire chief, that certainly it's busy, there's meetings. I'm lucky because I have a great staff at the fire department and people that can take care of things. And certainly the time that I would have to put in with the school board can be managed, and generally they're happy if I'm not around anyway. So I'm sure that I can make it work in that way. And certainly if I were fortunate enough to become a member, I know there's a lot of things that I'm going to have to learn in that first year. I know I'm going to have to put extra time into it to understand all the state boards, regulations, and rules and laws. So I think that I can juggle it. Again, my family's moved out of the house. It's my wife and I, although she's going to be a grandmother in September. I think that there's that time, and I have that window before there are, you know, several grandkids, so I can make it work. So. I didn't run out of time.
Yeah. My answer to if it's a concern is unequivocally yes, it is, because everybody's life is harried and there's a lot going on. But you know, my family has made it work. Don't ask my husband. I'm not sure he's voting for me. So. But you know, we have made the commitment and we make it work. I am blessed beyond any belief with the family that I have around me in the area, and it's unbelievable how much they help. We all help each other out, but they're helping me a lot right now, and I know that that is why I can do what I'm doing for school board.
I don't have a concern about commitment. I thought about it a lot, and I have a lot of family support, and I take my commitments very seriously as far as what it entails, and I try to give 110%. So I don't have any other concern, I don't have concerns about the commitment unless I have, unfortunately, a family emergency or a situation come up that really needs my attention. And I'm excited to be, if I do get elected, to learn all the things there are to learn, and the education, the classes, and stuff you have to take to become certified. I think it would be very exciting.
Well, we made it about 20 minutes before the discussion of money. And I'll read the first of 3 questions. They do overlap a little bit, so you will probably be answering a little bit redundant. But the first question is from Sue Collins. On May 5th, voters will also be asked to decide whether or not to support a sinking millage fund. Can you help explain what this tax is and whether or not you are supporting the millage and why? Craig?
It's me. Yeah.
Okay.
As much as I'd like it to be him. but-
Okay, all
I'll
right.
certainly go.
No, it's,
Either way.
Oh, good.
it's fine.
Why don't you two just answer?
Explain.
Yeah, there's lots of parts to that question.
Yeah, explaining the sinking fund millage, and we'll see how I do, but basically, we're taking an existing tax that is already being paid by the residents within the school district for the CARES millage, which is a wonderful millage, and I believe it's 10 years old, 10, that basically provides funds from your property taxes to the CARES board basically doles it out based on projects that are community-based, so that the whole community is sharing them. So that tax exists as we speak. It is up for renewal. What we're looking, or what they're looking at doing is taking the CARES millage and splitting it between, what it currently goes for with the CARES dollars in cultural enrichment programs, and taking part of that to set aside for a sinking fund, which a sinking fund is what school districts are allowed to ask for voters for an increase in taxes, basically, or an additional tax to support projects, which in the past have had to be buildings and facility related, but it's getting a little bit broader what you can use them for, to provide additional funds to the school. Thank you. So instead of an additional tax, we're looking at taking an existing tax that is asking to be renewed and kind of honing it up differently. So some of it is going to go to the schools to help with the facilities and structural things, and the remaining part still goes to the CARES millage. And I think the only part to that is I am supporting it. I would love to go on why I'm supporting this when I haven't supported other sinking funds, but that's my answer, sorry. You can talk to me later.
My turn. Well, I'm glad she explained it. You don't really need to hear all that again. It is somewhat new to me. I have to be honest, I have not been able to study just that in the past few weeks, kind of getting ready for this and attending board meetings and learning some things. So I think that I have to, I'm not as versed as Barry is on, I know what it's for, but I haven't read a ton about it. I am in support of it because I think that we can't get ourselves in a situation financially, especially in these times, where we really need a lot more. It's a small percentage they're asking for, and our community and our school system we have to work together. We have to support each other. So I am in favor of it, and that's where I am at on that right now.
Okay. First of all, I think that Barry should get to skip a question just because she. I think the CARES the millage, it's very important. CARES, in fact, the fire departments received funding from it in the past for safety town programs and different things like that. And certainly if you've been to the senior center, it's well worth it. They have a great place out there. So I think that part of it's easy. I think we all agree that they do worthwhile things with that money. The sinking fund, I just know how it happens at our house. You know, it seems like we all get caught up. Our bills are finally all paid and we're kind of going the right way. And then boom, something goes wrong and now you've got to put that money into the roof or the furnace or whatever. And so it's always important to have that rainy day fund, and I think that's what that sinking fund will do for us. So I'm certainly in favor of it.
Let's go back to Amy with the second of 3 money questions. And there's kind of 2 questions in one. What are the contingency plans if the state cuts the per student allocation? And how would you plan on dealing with less state funding?
The first part of that question again?
Contingency plans if the state cuts the per student allocation.
I have to say, that's something that I have to learn more about. I don't think that I know a lot about the contingency plan. What I do think we have to look at as a school system, if we do get less state funding, is we have to remain innovative and maintain our excellence so that we can attract more people moving to Saline. And a lot of people moved here because of our school system. I did 20 years ago, and a lot of people do because of our excellence. And so I think in that regard, we have to remain innovative. We have to make sure that we maintain our excellence and attract people to Saline.
I'd have to agree. I don't know enough about the budget and where we're at and what maybe kind of contingency fund we have, whether we could, make it through another year before we had to make drastic decisions or anything like that. But certainly, I'm not privy to some of that. But I think that Amy's hit it on the head. I think that with this economy, we're all going to have to make new decisions, get creative, come up with, not always do the things we've done for the last 10 years or 20 years and try some new things. I know that change is difficult for everybody, but I think that's the direction we have to go. Certainly our Saline community wants to stay there, so we have to all give and take and be creative.
I gotta say, I think that you guys did really well. I don't think it's a fair question to say what a contingency plan is for someone who hasn't, been on the board. Even for me, as far as a contingency plan, when we do budgets, we lay out, most probable, best and worst case scenarios, and we try to plan for them. But the funding that we get, or the way schools are funded, is so hard to plan and measure. It's really, really a difficult state to have a contingency plan, because your contingency plan is going to involve a lot of hurt. It's going to involve cutting programs. It's going to involve, it'll have, most likely personnel impact. There's a lot of things that would happen, or that would have to happen, if our funding suddenly, let's say, dropped by half or something. We quite honestly depend on the state for how we run our schools. I think as we go through, and we've been through these budgeting processes now, or we've been in this kind of deficit mode where we have really cut back on a lot of things, we've learned how to operate much more efficiently, which is great. I mean, it's good for everybody. There's things that have to happen that people don't like at first, but you know what? It's probably best for the school system in the long run. But thank you. But the contingency plan, or what we do for cuts in funding, is really kind of a floating board, because it depends on what the cuts are, how deep, how big the deficit is, and, where we have to move that money and what we feel is best for our students. And that's the bottom line. We try to do what is best in that case. Thanks.
Okay,
That's twice I've used two.
that's
You
okay.
guys really need to step up to the plate.
And the third money question. Given the dire economic state that Michigan finds itself in, it will be necessary to make hard decisions as a board. What is your stand on privatization of services?
Maybe this one might come out. Well, the school employees are just as concerned as the rest of us. In Michigan, things are rough, and we all have that. We're all looking over our shoulder to see when something's going to happen that takes us all out of the picture. But I think that what we need to do is, back to that word creative, we need to all work together, and then we need to take that next step and think of things that are out of the box here. Too late to look for the notes.
You could go
We
to
need
YouTube
other
and
ways to
notes.
possibly find sources of revenue, to help maybe pick up the slack for what we lose from the state. Now, has this already been done? I don't know. If we looked at different types of things, I don't know. But I think that we certainly need to sit down and try to do everything we can to keep, our employees here. They're from the community also, and, I don't want to be the guy that's, taking out some families. Now, if, I can't say never, because we need to take care of business too, because the students are our number one priority as a board.
Privatization can be a ugly word. It is definitely not the first place that anybody wants to go. And so you would always hope and work towards ideals of being able to keep your employees your employees. There are certain things that are gonna make privatization something that has to be on the table. It comes up, and like Craig, I will never say never to privatization, just because I don't know what tomorrow brings as far as our revenue sources go. Again, it's not the first place that I think that I personally want to go, and I don't think any board members existing feel that way. But it is something that has to stay. In the air if it's something that has to be done or can be done with as little impact to our employees as possible. My personal thought on this, and this is not as part of a board at all, is I would, personally, if we have to do something with privatization, it seems to me it would make sense to do something in a grandfathered way, where you do it going forward but not to existing, and try to work in a way that kind of goes forward. That goes forward but not backwards. But that's just my personal thinking, and there's a lot more involved with it than just what I think. So, and I know that.
I think there's a lot of hard decisions to make when we look at cutting our budget. And again, I think there's innovative ways, there are creative ways to look at other things. There are so many times as my kids were growing up, and even now, that they were touched by their bus driver, their lunch lady. It takes a village to raise these children. They, as middle school and high school kids, they don't want to listen to their mom and dad, but they might see their neighbor or the lunch lady or whoever somewhere, and they know that they're going to come and tell their parents. What's going on? I had so many moments bringing up my kids, and even now, at the bus stop. They didn't want to get on the bus some days, and there's this friendly face that they still see 20 years later. So that's going to be a difficult thing for me, because I know there's things you have to do, and you have to have boundaries, and we've run our own business for 20 years. You have to work within your budget. But I have felt so comforted in the years that the people who have interacted with my kids have been people from our community.
What is your view of trimesters and why?
Oh, it's my turn, sorry. My view of trimesters is, I don't know, I'm not a student, so I don't know the impact that it has from a student standpoint. I know what it has from a district standpoint. I know the impact from a learning standpoint is, I think, a little bit in favor of trimesters, but I don't think there's a lot of data to support either piece of it. So I really, quite honestly, don't have strong feelings about trimesters.
I have to agree a little bit with Barry, just because my kids went through a time when we didn't have it, and now we have it. It's fairly new. I think that we're working out the kinks of some of the people who didn't want it. I'm watching the difference between my daughter experiencing it and my son, and there's pros and cons. So I'm kind of in the middle, still trying to figure it out. I think the educators are trying to work out some of the kinks, and everybody's getting used to it, but I really don't have enough, I don't think it's been enough time for me to really answer that and say I feel one way or another about it. It's still fairly new. I think there's pros and cons to it, so I'm kind of in the middle.
It is new. It's new for me. It's new to everybody, and certainly we're back to that change thing again. And I know that I've talked to a few students about it, and certainly they don't like it because they were comfortable where they were. But it is new, and I think what we need to do is wait for this freshman class to make it all the way through, and then after they graduate, just look at some numbers and see how it comes out, and then take another look at it.
What do you think the school system's role should be in drug prevention?
What the school system's role should be? Well, I think they do a great job right now with their zero tolerance and the way they try to handle it. I'm very passionate about the community, the parents and the school system working together. I don't know, I think there's a lot to be done, but I think that we've started in the past few years, especially being part of SCRUD, reducing underage drinking and drug use. I think that we're on the right road. We need to get more people involved, but I think the school system does I think they do a really great job. When I was growing up, the school system there was nothing like what there is now. Not that I partake in that, but it was just very loose. The punishments were not as strict, and I think Saline does an excellent job taking care of it and being aware and following through. And I think we all need to help each other as parents, empower each other to do that also.
I think that the schools do an excellent job teaching the students, starting with the DARE program with Officer Ringe, and then now with the SCRUD and the parent network that they have involved. So I think our students are getting good information. I think now the next step is to get to the parents, because I think there's parents that aren't aware of all the dangers and what kind of things are going on. So I think that's the next step we need to get into, and I know that Scrud is working on that, just because I have been part of that. So I think that's the future of it. I think we need to continue to do that. Drugs and alcohol were probably there when all of us were in school, and they'll probably always be there. We just need to keep educating and making people aware.
Can you just read the question again, please?
A little louder.
Oh, a little bit louder, please.
What do you think the school system's role should be in drug prevention?
Okay. It definitely has to be part of it, because, like what Amy was saying, it does take a village, and you can't have a school system that is just turning a blind eye to drug use or alcohol abuse. So I think their role in it really needs to be much along the lines of teaching what drug abuse can look like, what alcohol abuse can look like, what it can do to you, what it can do further on down the line, and to have programs that help students that might be in jeopardy. I think that a little bit further into that question might be something about our zero tolerance policy. And if that was the idea, I do support that. I think that the bottom line is it's illegal, and if they're doing it, there has to be some consequences to that. So.
Okay. What type of relationship do you think a board member should have with the community?
Well, I'm fortunate enough with my job to know a lot of people in the community and have friends in the community, and everywhere from the schools to the hospital to the police department to the kid at the car wash to the rec center, and the students that I know. So having that relationship, I think, and during conversations, I get information from them. They have questions or concerns. I think that those would be valuable and make me a better board member. I could use all that information, pass it along to the other board members. So that community relationship is very important. And I think because of my job, I'm also accessible. So I think that's another good thing that I would have going if I were part of the school board.
What kind of relationship we need to have is very open, and you need to be involved as a school board member, because I guess we're elected officials, so the idea of elections are representing people, the people in the community, and you have to be part of that community, and you have to be talking and conversing with people out there to kind of get a feel for what the community is looking for. So I think that it has to be an ongoing relationship, and you have to make yourself available, and you have to be willing to talk to anybody and listen to their opinions, and that's how you learn and grow, and that's how you benefit the board as a whole is bringing opinions and ideas and thoughts back to discuss.
I think you have to, you definitely have to be open and approachable, and really be interested in people's feedback, their opinions. You also need to be trustworthy. You can't obviously divulge there are private things that happen, and there are things that people want to share. You have to be very trustworthy and honorable with how you discern information. And so I think that's very important also. And you really have to be involved in the community in many different aspects. And I think that's one of the reasons you want to serve your community as a board member. When you are out there in the community, you've lived it, you've met different people, all different walks of life. And so I think you definitely have to have open communication, but you have to be very trustworthy and discern information that's private.
We'll do Sue's second question right now. It's a little more complicated. When elected, board members have the opportunity to address issues of interest and spearhead discussions about change. Give us an example of 2 areas in the district you think need attention. Think about policies and programs, as well as opportunities and challenges in buildings or on the board. Yeah.
Who submitted that question?
Okay.
Did you think I'm running for the president?
When elected, board members have the opportunity to address issues of interest and spearhead discussion about change. Give us an example of 2 areas in the district you think need attention. Think about policies and programs, as well as opportunities and challenges in buildings or on the board.
Okay. 2 areas. The only thing I will put an asterisk on is I'm not saying that it's wrong the way it is. So the change part is changing for improvement. So give me some latitude. See how I take that question and change it. One of those would be continually looking for new funding sources. So this is not saying that it completely needs to change from what we currently do in looking, because we are out there, but it is something that I think can continually look to change it for improvement or improving more opportunities. So boy, am I just throwing some words out there. Looking for more opportunities to both stabilize and supplement our current funding sources. The other, I think, opportunity that we have is our building structures. One, we have some extra space, which is good for our district. I know it can be seen as having an open building, but actually it gives us opportunities to look at finding new ways to make money or have space for additional programs when the time comes for those. But the Liberty Committee came back with some recommendations that are being looked at. Thank you. Another 2 minutes. That are being looked at, and I think there'll be opportunities there. We need to keep exploring those resources as well. So that's what I'm doing. Good luck. Good question.
My turn. I have to say that I don't have anything that I have an agenda to change or that I've thought a lot about change. I do have, I'm doing this to serve. So I haven't given a lot of thought to what needs to be changed. Or I did recently, the presentation on the Liberty School building was, I thought, very good, and I think it's good to keep open, and I think they're looking for ways to bring more money in the district. I would say 2 areas that we need to keep our attention on are being innovative and making sure that we attract families to Saline. And I think the second thing is we need to make sure that we reach all our different type of students, all different types of learning. We need to make sure that the special needs are met, the consortium kids, the high academic, all of the students. So we need to maintain that, and I think that may or may not require change. I think we do a great job at it now, but we need to maintain that. And so those are 2 areas that come to mind for me that, maybe not need attention, but we need to maintain, that's a high level of attention I think those 2 areas need.
I'm in the same boat, not being, on the board and knowing what direction we're trying to go. I guess I would say that I agree with Barry that, like we mentioned before, we need to be creative. We need to try to find some more funding sources so that we maybe don't have to worry about jobs and employees of our school system. The other thing that I think from 10 years of working with different boards and committees is that communication is the answer to streamlining most situations. And I know that on a fire scene, if it breaks down, the whole project's shot. So I think if our board communicates, we communicate to the superintendent and on down the line, and all the schools are working together, communicating well, I think we can also bring, by doing that, everything runs smoother, it saves money, everybody's happy, and we move on. So that's what I would say.
I think of the board as leaders and as a team. What experience do you have as leader or a team member?
A leader,
You think you're done?
a leader, I would have to say, as all parents would, you have to be a leader. You have to make tough decisions. You have to follow through with a lot of different things that are faced to you. So I haven't really been ahead of a huge, something as big as, a really huge committee. I've served a lot on small committees, on school things. I'm more fond of, well, not really more fond. I can do the leadership role. I can make the hard decisions. And I think as a parent, you're faced with that, and you have to use those skills to make other decisions in the community. I like being part of a team. I think you learn a lot by being on a team with different personalities and different talents. And so both ways, I think all of my volunteer things that I do, I'm on a team. I have to work with other people, and I'm very fond of that too. So I think I have the skills to do both.
I think of the board as leaders and as a team. What experience do you have as a leader or a team member?
Well, certainly my job as fire chief is a leadership position. What works well for me is knowing the people that work for you and using your resources. I'm lucky that typically you can find the people that can do the job for you. And my job as a leader or as a future board member is to get those employees, those students, those teachers, the tools they need, the direction they need, and to let them do their job. And to, when they come to you and they have problems, to listen to those problems, find out what we can do to take care of that. And anytime you do that, we're back to the communication thing, that makes the team run that much smoother. So my job as fire chief has helped me immensely.
I once sat in an interview and a similar question was asked about, what do you think gives you the experience to be a manager? And I thought about it for a second and I said, well, have you ever gotten a 6-year-old up from at 7 o'clock in the morning and trying to get them ready for school, and they don't want to wear what you picked out and they don't want to eat what you made for breakfast, and you have to somehow coerce them to wear something that somewhat looks like it goes together and the shoes match, and you have to figure out how to get them to eat something before they go to school without cooking an entire new breakfast. And I think a little bit to what Amy says, being the parent and negotiating with irrational kids, or a 6-year-old for that point, is probably the best experience in doing that. However, throughout my career, I've had many experiences of working with teams, managing teams, hiring and firing people, and I guess when you put that all together, you don't need the leadership qualities, you need the team member qualities. You need to be able to listen, and you need to be able to take a lot of information and try to form the best decision for everyone.
What is your vision for the Saline School District?
Is it me? I think I might be repeating myself. Is it you? Good.
Anybody out there know whose turn it is?
I think it's my turn.
Okay.
Who's on first?
Well, I think my vision would be to continue the tradition of quality schools in Saline, to keep us high in the state as one of the best schools around. And if I were a board member, to make sure that we weren't just happy with the status quo, and that we would continue to implement new programs, change old ones, and continue that way. What would I like to do?
It's a great school.
Well, it is, yeah, I really don't know blank on that. But I think if we were to continue to grow, and possibly maybe in this tough economy, we're gonna have to get back to that fancy word, creative. We're gonna have to come up with new things in the future, such as technology. Maybe in our learning, we're gonna have to use technology in all the different ways. I know I've looked online at the technology blog, and there's so many things. I mean, when I was in school, we had an electric typewriter. Now there's just so many things that they do and use that I'm sure that we can, incorporate that to make things smoother and cost effective.
I think that my biggest thing is, wouldn't it be great to have 100% graduation rate? And granted, we have a great graduation rate in Saline, but I think it would say something. I think it's kind of like a great goal, but the idea would be saying how great our school system is. I mean, it's out there. We have this fabulous school system. Always room for improvement. We always have to be on top of it. We always have to be coming up with new ideas. But I've always loved that idea of 100% graduation. Everybody goes on to do whatever they want, whether it's college. I mean, we have a high college rate, which is great. But college isn't for everyone, and you can't say, that would be the best. But if everybody graduates and have a place to go.
Can you repeat the question again, please?
What is your vision for the Saline School District?
Okay, I think that, I've said this before, but I do think we need to reach all of our students. We need to maintain our excellence, which I think we can do even in tough times. And we need to maintain our parental support. And I have learned so much. I think our board and our school system is already way ahead and already thinking about a lot of options. I have learned so much in attending the board meetings. The administrators are always thinking of things to do to attract more students, to do things online, to be very grow in technology, like Craig said. So I think I don't have one vision. I think that we need to keep moving forward and maintain our excellence, and we need to make sure that we reach all of our students and their learning, all their different types of learning. and keep the great teachers that we have. Because we have a lot of great educators here. We need to make sure we can keep them. So,
Saline has promised us a weighted grading system for several years. It still has not happened. What is your position with respect to a weighted grading system?
Yeah, yeah. One thing, I'm not sure where the promise comes into this. I've never heard that we've promised a weighted grading system. But I will tell you, I have absolutely no opinion on a weighted grading system. There are pros and cons to both sides of it. I know it's an issue. It's been talked about how some colleges look at it, but I've also gotten information that said that that's not entirely true, that's not how it comes about. So I am not informed enough to make any decision on whether Saline should have it or should not have it. And I'm sorry, but that's the best I can do.
well, I definitely don't have an opinion about it because I need somebody to explain it to me. What do you mean?
Classes, certain classes carry a heavier weight than other classes.
For example, AP history carries more weight than gym class.
Which makes sense on the surface, you know, I mean, but there's more to it.
Yeah, I would say that I don't have, I think, yeah, I don't have an opinion about that. I do have an opinion that we have to reach all students and all, I don't think that's yeah, I would have to, I can't make a decision on that. I really can't. I don't think that's a fair, I would have to research that more to really answer it how I would have an opinion about it. Other than I think we have to be careful because there's all different kinds of students. And they all have different talents and they all take different classes. And so I think we have to be careful with that.
Well, I'll start it all out different here. In all the information that I've received from the State School Board Association in regards to being a candidate or a new member, there's a lot to know, you know, as a candidate, and you can't do it all in the 3 months that you're running for the board. So they tell you right in your manual that if you don't know, then say you don't know. And that's what I would say right now, that I have no opinion.
Where's that manual you got?
I think we're back.
The board has made a commitment in the last year to continuing education. What is your
View, I think.
view of this?
Continuing education.
Continuing education. Do you want me to read it again?
Sure, do it.
The board has made a commitment in the last year to continuing education. What is your view of this?
Yeah, I think I did.
Can you elaborate on how they've made a commitment to continuing education?
Go ahead, Barry.
It's, the board takes classes, and I think you're familiar with those.
Right.
There's
Oh,
school
for
board
the board
class,
members.
Yes, to.
Okay, that
to
wasn't
keep
really
taking
clear. I'm
classes.
sorry.
I might be making a leap, but that's what I'm assuming is meant by that question, so, yeah.
So that the
yeah.
board members have to continue.
Continue
Yeah.
education
I-
for being a board member.
I
Am I
think-
taking any liberties out there? If anybody,
Is that what the question is? Oh, okay.
It was difficult to understand because we were trying to think about what continuing education programs we talked about. I think the board members, it's different, yeah, that's what they're asking.
About the board
Education for
members.
board members.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was about the
Because they're
students,
teachers.
so I wasn't. I think it's great, and I think that it's very exciting, and that most of, I don't know if you know this, but all of the board members that we have, I think all of them, or 6 or 7 of them, they've all been certified. They take classes in Lansing. It's, I think it's a very professional way to serve your community. I think it's a very exciting way to learn a lot. And I'm very excited about that opportunity, and I think it's great that we have that professional of a board. I'm done.
Continuing education in any field is important. In the fire service, we constantly have continuing education. You want your people to, stay sharp, and you don't want to just hire a teacher and then they're a teacher forever. You want them to continue to go on to and improve themselves, and everybody should. And the same with board members. I think it's very important, especially new members. Certainly need to go someplace and find out all these different things that you're bringing up tonight. So continuing ed is important stuff. Very good.
I feel the same way in any line of business that you're in. Any of you in any fields, you are continually taking classes, seminars, anything to increase your knowledge about what you do. So there's nothing bad to be said about continuing education, and it should be incumbent upon the school board members to do that. I will say I think you will learn a heck of a lot more sitting at the table for a year than in any taking 12 classes, but it is an important piece in anything that you do.
Alright, this is sort of a more specific question. How do you feel about varsity letters for academics?
Wow. I've never heard of that, but why not? I mean, I'm not sure, if there's any school rules against it, but it certainly makes sense to me. Achievement in anything, whether it's a sport, a classroom, or in music, sure, why not? There should be some kind of awards.
I will say on the surface, I wouldn't think anything differently about it. There should be some sort of recognition for anything that students achieve. I don't know if there is an issue with this, or I'm not speaking on behalf of it without knowing if there's two sides to the story or anything like that. But the more recognition we can give to students, I don't see a downside to that.
I have to agree with you as far as recognition for, I think the varsity letter has been such a thing with athletics for so many years, and there are so many other achievements. I guess we would have to see what the requirements are for those academic. I think, in my opinion, kids could receive a varsity letter for a lot of things. There's just so much that they do. I mean, I cannot believe, in attending the board meetings just recently, the kids that come up and present. And there's many things that I didn't know about because my kids were not involved in them. Amazing people, absolutely amazing students. But they're in that school everywhere for one thing or another. So I think that's a really hard thing for me to answer yes or no to, because I think every kid, I guess what you can get them as a junior or senior or whatever it is, could get a varsity letter for something, because they all have a talent and a gift. And so that's really hard for me to say yes or no to. And I know that it's been, just to athletics, and there's just so many things for kids to be recognized for. So that's hard for me to answer. If it was me, everyone would have one for something.
Okay, that's it for the questions. Now starting with Barry. Each of the candidates will have 2 minutes to summarize and/or say whatever they would like to tell you.
Please come out and vote on May 5th. Is it May 5th?
Yes.
May 5th. Please come out and vote on May 5th. I would love to serve again as a board member, but I think from tonight's forum, I think you can see we've got 3 excellent people running. The best thing you can do is just go out and encourage everyone to vote, because the more turnout that we have, the better it is for the school system. So, thank you. You're gonna go.
Well,
Yeah, it does go to you.
That's the order.
I think I'm basically here to serve the community. It's a great time for me to step up to the plate and do it. And I think I have a lot of qualities to offer the board. I would be honored to be a part of the Saline School Board. I think we have a great team assembled, and I would appreciate your vote on May 5th.
It's very difficult to sit and talk about yourself. I don't know if you've ever had to do that, so it's very uncomfortable. But I think it's important that everybody votes. I think it's important, there's 3 people here that could certainly, do the role. I think that experience means a lot, and I think that's what Barry brings, experience plus the financial background. So I think that's something you definitely need to consider. And I think that the 2 of us could take care of the position. I think that my community, my being part of the community and having those conversations with the different members of the community and being accessible are really important and would make me a good school board member. So come on out and vote.
As Craig says, this is not an easy thing to do, so before we go here, let's have a round of applause. Please thank me in joining the Girl Scouts. From the beginning, they've been helping us. Lastly, thank you all for attending. I hope that this forum gives you some insight into the 3 candidates, and I certainly join them, the candidates, in hoping that you'll all come out and vote on fit. Thank you very much, and have a good night.